Today I am going to talk about out of the box replication. Like if you have used Postgres for a number of years, you must have used at least one or two tools outside of Postgres to set up a replication system to master like primary and secondary or cascading secondary replication. So the goal for this tutorial is to explain you like why the Postgres replication was little difficult before 9.4, and now I think everything is built in. Like you can use Postgres provided tools to set up a replication between systems. And how many of you have downloaded the VM that I sent out? Okay, most of, who hasn't downloaded yet? 1, 2, 3, 4. That's fine, I think, but it's too late. You can still have like that email and you can start downloading it, but by the time I will start using it, it might be downloaded. Okay. It's a Google Drive link that you can download from there. Should be fairly easy. Okay, so my name is Denish Patel, by the way. I'm a principal database engineer at WithMe. It's a startup based in Las Vegas. Before that, I used to be lead database architect at OmniTI. It's a computer consulting company, support Postgres. I have worked with number of different systems. Like about a decade ago, I used to work on Oracle. And then I transformed into Postgres and NoSQL systems. The recent project I completed was migrating MongoDB to Postgres about 2 weeks ago for the current employer. You can contact me on my email address, danish.patel@withme. I am on Twitter. I'm very active on Twitter too. So if you have any question, you can shoot me over the Twitter or email in the future. I write a blog post sometimes whenever I get time, or I solve some of the good problem. It's pateldanish.com that and I have all the contact information over there too. So that's all about me. So with me, we are going to talk about a replication. It's a very interesting topic. Okay, so I will just understand the audience. Like, how many of you never ever set up a replication in Postgres? 1, 2, 3. Okay. How many of you have used like the streaming replication? And anybody has used the replication slot in 9.4 that's being used? So okay, so I think we have the right audience. We have half, and by end of this tutorial, like you should go back to your organization, should be able to set up a replication. So if at least maybe 10 out of you like could able to manage to follow me on the VM, I think I'll be very grateful. Okay, so let's this is the agenda that so I will talk about the WAL, because WAL is very basic thing that everybody should be knowing if you are talking about replication system. We'll talk about the history, how you set up replication now until 9.3, like, or some people even use 9.4, but they are not using replication slot. So we'll talk about that and what's missing, like why your replication system, whatever you are using, why it's broken and why that was fixed in 9.4. And we'll do the demo. What I'm not going to discuss is, like, I'm not going to discuss about Slowney or any other third-party replications tool. Like there are, I think 10 or 15 out there. Rep Manager, PITR, WAL-E, there are others that I can't remember the names. And or third-party management tool, like there are a lot of replication management tool out there that I'm not going to discuss about it. But after this tutorial, I bet you like you will not need them at all. So you can throw that into the garbage and use this one. Okay, so WAL is the write ahead log. So it's a roll forward recovery. Like so, Postgres writes into the file. Like so, whenever you do commit, it will flush into the disk for the guaranteed commit durability. So, once it's written into WAL files, you can able to recover the data in case of Postgres crash or something goes bad on the system. Even though like by default Postgres always writes, you cannot disable it at all. Like you might not have enabled archive log, but there is a directory called PG_X log that Postgres always write on that file or on that directory. So even though you want to crash your system, Postgres will not allow you to crash. Like even you plug out your system, like just take out your power cable from the system. If you restart the Postgres, it will recover from the PGX log file that was written. And it's always a sequential writes. The WAL files are always written sequential. So if you are using a disk that is optimal for sequential write, I think that's like some people ask like, should I put WAL files into different mount point? Yes, I think it's a good idea, like because you will be if you have a separate what's called at disk spindle or like I forgot the name, but yeah. So if you have a, so that will help you, like if you are using SSDs, like it's faster to write disk, right? Like so that will help to if you are inserting a lot of data or a lot of transaction on the system, and if you are putting WAL files on the SSDs, it will help you to increase the write activities. And it's a lower cost than flushing the page cache, like so it just write into that file, and this file will allow you to crash recovery. It can help you to do the binary backups. So if you don't have a WAL files enabled, you cannot take a hot backup, like online backup. If you have archive WAL directory setup, then you can use hot backup. It can help you to do point in time recovery. For example, you have a backup taken on Sunday, full backup, and you have all the WAL files available until today is Wednesday. Yeah, so you have 3 days of WAL files. So what you can do, actually you can restore that Sunday's backup and apply all WAL files, and your database will be point in time recovered. So that's the best, like I know Oracle used to charge a lot for that, like when I was working on Oracle. So it's very good feature. If you are not using it, you should definitely use that feature, because you never know, like system is there to fail, right? Whatever system, like even I am going to die, so system is going to fail anytime. So make sure that you have a good backup, and make sure you back up the WAL files. So in any given point of time, you can roll forward up to that point. And the replication is the another, like you can use this WAL files, ship over to the different system, apply those WAL, roll forward those changes into another system. So those are the use cases like for this WAL file. So it's very important to know. So some internal, like very basic things that you should be knowing about WAL is like it's automatically enabled, like PG_X logs is automatically enabled, but if you want to set up a WAL archive directory, you have to do it by yourself. It's not enabled by default. Make sure you have enough space on the server, like if you run out of the disk space where your PG_X log resides, you will crash your database. So make sure it has enough space. And I have like in like 4 years ago, I was working with one client, and what they ran out of disk space, and the system was crashing with some like random number, because WAL files are named like hexadecimal values. So like I got a phone call that okay, we ran out of disk space, and I removed like 4 or 5 files from PGX log, because xlog, like there are two directories, right, pg underscore log, pg underscore xlog, they look same. So, never ever make that mistake, like never delete anything from pg underscore xlog. I think naming is really difficult here, but like because it's a log, right, log in that folder name, so people think it's a log, so we can just remove it, and they recovered like maybe 50 MB or something, and they restarted it, it did not come back. So that could happen to you. So make sure that you keep eye on that pg underscore xlog directory, have enough space. Normally you should have a monitor on your system to make sure that it doesn't run out of disk space. Normally they are 16 MB in size. If you go into pg underscore xlog directory, all the files will be 16 MB no matter what it's written or not, like it's even it's empty, it's always 16 MB. You can change that, like when you install a compile a Postgres installation using compilation, like you can set a with WAL sec size. Some people tune it for data warehouse system to 32 MB to make it a little faster, but I think 16 MB is good enough from my experience. And each segment is divided into 8 KB of blocks. So it's a block size, like I know in Oracle block size was a very big thing.
Related question. So what is the best practice to set the WAL keep segment?
I'll get back to that. You might not need it, but by end of this session you might not need it. So the all name starts with like 0001, like there's a number. So that number 1 is very important. That's called timeline. So when you fail over into one system to another system, that number 1 converts into 2, like they start with the number 2, A, B, C, D, like they're hexadecimal numbers. So sometimes you feel like after failover you are like, okay, until now like all files are starting with 1 and now everything is 2. Now again you failover starting with 3. So you should know that why it's number 1, 2, 3. So it's because when you do ls on the directory, everything is 1 and suddenly it start number 2. So you can see like what is logged. So what is there is a different level of logging Postgres allows you to write into WAL files. You can see your settings using pg underscore settings, well name equal to WAL underscore level. So there is a WAL level setting. So you can define what should be logged like. So it is to be minimal. Minimal doesn't like if you want to do archive logging, then you have to have archive level of WAL. If you set only minimal, like the Postgres will write only minimal things that doesn't require to be replication, or maybe you might not be able to take a backup. So normally I would start with archive first because it will allow you to take a point in time recovery. It will allow you to do replication, those kind of stuff. The next step is hot underscore standby. That is like introduced in 9.0, like when the hot standby came into the picture. So now if you set as if you are using a streaming replication, you should set a hot underscore standby. It's the minimum, and normally that's what we set right now. And in the future people will start using logical replication. In that you have to set that WAL underscore level to logical. So that will allow Postgres to write more things into the WAL files. If you don't set that, it will not write, and you cannot able to do logical replication in the future. But it's still like it's a begin phase. So in the 9.5 or further, the logical will be used by default most probably. But hot standby is the one that you are looking for right now. That's normally I would set. So almost everything is replicated into WAL, like when you set up a master and the secondary, but it doesn't replicate the unlocked tables. So you can create a table with no unlocked clause. So those tables will not be logged into WAL files. So that is the use case of unlock tables, like people do performance improvement using unlock tables, and that is the reason like it's a faster to write into unlock tables, because it doesn't write into the WAL files and the flush into the disk. So when you write a unlock tables, it just keep in the memory and it will flush eventually, but like it doesn't have to flush every time. Temporary tables are not locked. So if you are, they are normally the session based, so they are not replicated. Hash indexes. Anybody has used hash indexes? Oh, great. So it's not replicated if you are using it. Like I haven't seen any use case using hash indexes, but if you have any, like they are not getting replicated. So that's good to know. Okay, so we'll go with the history. Like Postgres came along a long history of replication, like since 7.0, like there was a WAL files was introduced. Before 7.0, what they used to do is they used to flush the entire the data file. They used to flush the entire data file. So in 7.0, they started using the WAL files to flush only things they would like to flush it. 8.0 PITR came into the picture. We used to had a PG underscore. There was script we were using before in 8.0 that normally I have seen a lot of times. Like people used to have various kind of script. And in 8.2 they introduced PG underscore standby command that you can use to restore from the WAL files. In 9.0 it's hot standby came into the picture, and then you can do streaming replication. So the streaming replication will do the direct like connection from primary server to the secondary database system, and it will do like the streaming. In 9.1 PG base backup came, that was introduced, and introduced the synchronous replication. By default all the replication is asynchronous. So if you commit on primary, it doesn't commit it like right away on the secondary, so it's called asynchronous. But if you really want guaranteed to be committed on the standby server, you should use the synchronous. But there are some penalty to use it, right? For example, if you have a synchronous commit on and the secondary database goes down, then you cannot able to take more transaction. That's it. Like unless you have like 2 or 3 slave in the synchronous commit, and it will try to put at least into one standby database, and then it's fine. Cascading replication, like it came in 9.2. Before 9.2 you couldn't able to set up a primary, secondary, and the cascading secondary. So now you can do primary replicate to secondary and secondary replicate to secondary 2. That's called cascading. Like in earlier version, the secondary wasn't creating enough WAL generation to set up as a secondary, as a primary. So now it's doable in 9.2. In 9.3, standby can switch timeline. Okay, so up to like 9.2, like so as I talked to you earlier in the WAL sequence, like 001, so that's called timeline. So in earlier version, once you fail over, you have a primary, you have a secondary, you have another secondary, and if you fail over to the secondary, you couldn't able to point the second secondary to point to the new master. Now in 9.3 I used to do that in 9.2 as well, but I had to restart the database, the secondary database, to ask them to follow the new timeline. But now it's like now it will, whenever the new recovery process starts, it could able to connect directly to the new primary database. If you have a proper recovery config setup, right, like if you have like a shared DNS or something, and then otherwise if it doesn't have, then you have to change the IP address into the recovery.com file to point the secondary to the new primary. And in 9.4, I think the evaluation, this is the like until 9.3, most of the replication are broken, like it's not perfect. But in 9.4, like once this replication slot feature came into the picture, it's the perfect replication system we have now, because in earlier version Postgres master did not have any information about the slave. Like once you send out something into the network, it doesn't matter was it written onto the secondary or not, master doesn't care about it, because there wasn't any state information into the primary database server. So now that's something the replication slot is providing. I think that's the preliminary information about replication. Is there any question about the stuff we went over? Everybody is sleeping? No. It was good lunch, right? It's best lunch I ever had since, like, I attend a lot of conferences, but this was pretty good. I am impressed with the lunch. And then I thought, like, okay, lunch is good, but my session is after the lunch. So I was a little worried. I am feeling sleepy. I came from Las Vegas yesterday, so that's the another reason. Because my company is based in Las Vegas. Basic steps to setting. Okay, so let's move faster in, like, I'll be a little faster, but like when you ask somebody to set up a replication, like let's do it. Like initdb, you do initdb on the database server, that will start the database server, the primary database server. Then you change into postgres.conf file, do maximum WAL senders, that's the parameter you set it, a WAL level, it's a hot standby you set it, as we spoke, like it should be hot standby. And hot standby equal to 1, I keep it by default. It's actually required on the standby database server, because what does that tell is hot standby is that you can able to open up your secondary database for read purpose. In earlier versions, like before 9.0, you couldn't able to do that. So in 8.4 or earlier, you had a failover system, but you couldn't able to read it from there. So that's the hot standby. Maximum WAL senders, that's the thing I will talk about in the future, but that's the new parameter came in with the replication slot. So that's the number of, like, so you have a like link between one system to another if you are using streaming. So I think it's important, like it was important in streaming, but by default it's I think 4 or 2, I don't remember, but that was good enough for streaming. But because replication slot is using the same kind of protocol, so you should bump it up to 10. We set up the PGHB_conf file for authentication. We will set up a replication user. Everybody, I assume that everybody knows about it. Who doesn't know about PG_HBA.conf file? Okay, you made my life easy. You don't know?
No, I know about the file, but I have a question.
Sure.
We have some clusters set up that are doing the WAL streaming, and maybe you're going to get to this later, but we use a different subnet, basically like a crossover cable with 10 gig Ethernet, and I'm wondering if you wanted to address that now, or if you plan to address that later.
No, we can address any time.
Okay, so is that okay to use a different private subnet crossover cable for the WAL streaming?
Yes, and a lot of people are doing that because it doesn't saturate the link
Exactly.
you have for the websites, for example.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's very. I had to transfer maybe a couple of clients to the different because of the saturation and the network. But always use them, like MD5 is the method, like don't put your, the trust is the method that people try to use it, like trust is like give trust to anybody to connect. and then you PG control restart. You restart the database, your primary database is ready for replication. So,
One more question.
sure.
So, PG control was used a lot before 9.4, and starting with 9.4, at least on Ubuntu, it might be different with other distros. You don't get PG control. You have to go build it from source. You get PG cluster control, which has more wrappers. Is that okay, or do you recommend even with 9.4 to use the PG control?
So the thing you are talking about it's actually a wrapper. The PG cluster, that's only for Ubuntu system. The real command is PG underscore control. It's whenever you install Postgres, it's by default it's always there. But the system, the thing you are talking about, it's only available in Ubuntu, not on CentOS then. So it's a wrapper, like different system has written a wrapper to control the cluster. Restart. And on the, we are still on the primary, so it's a lengthy, right? Like we are going through each and every step, but just give you the highlights, like how normally set up. First, I wanted to do it logically with everybody, that people understand what we are going to do later on in the session. So then you create a role replication, because you need somebody to connect from secondary database to the primary database for the replication protocol. So you create a replication role with login. There is a replication specific role. So you have to create with a replication role. And if you do \password and the username is a replication, and then it will ask you to type the password. So your password will not be in the history. If you do like alter role, encrypted password and the password, if somebody do scroll up, they can see all the passwords. So make sure that, like, this is pretty good trick, like it's very secure. Like you do \password, and for example my user is Denish and I want to reset my password, I can do that right there, and it will not be logged anywhere.
When you say with login replication, the replication word, is that part of the phrase? Because Postgres is case sensitive and it's also the name of the role.
Yes, so I can give any name, like what's your name, ma'am? Eileen. Okay, let's create a role Eileen with login replication. And then I have to use that Eileen username into recovery.conf file. The replication is like keyword. So for example, super user, right? Super role or super user role, the replication has a specific role. And you set a password for replication. I would set a replication maybe. And that is prepared. Like now we have primary database ready to set up a replication. Now the next step, you have to take a file system level backup. You take a backup from the primary database server, send it over to the secondary database server for like the base setup first. So what tools are you using for backups? Like I would like to learn. Like people are using all kind of different tools. So I have used PITR backup on the slave. I have used Rep Manager. I have used what's the name? Barman. Wally, yeah, Wally is a good one. There are like people write their own script to take a backup too. Like there are like zillions of ways you can take a backup. So I don't have any preference. Like as long as you feel good about it, I think you are good. As long as you test your backups, right? If you don't test your backup, then your backup is no good. Normally for my systems, I do recovery as the same interval as I take backup. If I take a backup every day, I do recover every day, because I don't trust backups, and I only believe that if the backup is restorable, then and then I feel I could able to sleep. And it could happen, like it happened to me, like you couldn't able to restore backups. So,
Waste a lot of time.
hmm?
You do backup and recover every day?
Yes, every day. Because if you get time to take a backup, you can have time to do the restore. Like you can automate that stuff. You don't have to do like manually. So what I do is like we have a separate system that only does the restore of the databases. That's it. So we have like 10 databases. So it restores one by one, and just send out an email by end of the day like, okay, these are the backups failed and these are the successful. During that process, I incorporated doing a vacuum full to make sure there is no corruption too. So yeah, it's very useful when you know that your backups are working. Any question about backup? I think we will be doing backup, okay, so you will know. Okay, then you do you go to the secondary database because you have entered PG data into the secondary now after taking a backup, send it over. Now you will create a recovery.conf file onto the secondary PG data location with this two parameters. Primary connection info is the information to connect to the primary server. So host is the primary host IP address or DNS name. User, the user we created a username Ellen or replication whatever, and password. You can normally I don't put the password into recovery.conf file. What I do is I use .pgpass file. If you don't know about that, like search about .pgpass file on Postgres docs. It's very easy to set up. Then the password will be read from that, and you need to set specific permission onto that file, so it will not be readable by everybody except root.
This recovery.conf goes on the
Secondary. Oh, you don't like, that's the one thing, like sometimes people tell me like, how do I know that this is a primary database server or secondary database server? That's the one file you can look at it actually, because primary database server doesn't have this file, only secondary has this file. So if you are not sure about your database system, if you are a sysadmin and you don't know how to connect, you can actually look at the PG data and see this is the file exists. Actually I did some automation related to that, like if file exists, don't do anything or do something like that. So standby mode, that's the another parameter. So that will tell the system that it can be open up for the read only. If you don't have it on, you cannot, it will still restore it, but you cannot connect to the standby database. And then you do standby, restart the standby database. Oh yeah, actually we did that, it will work, but have you configured the archiving or not? Like, because streaming replication doesn't need archiving actually. So you can have the streaming replication but no archiving on. So because it's very important to archiving, because it's possible that somebody ran a long query on the standby database and your standby database go far back like 30 minutes or more, and after that your standby will never catch up because it's missing some information. That's where the WAL keep segments come into the picture. So if you keep WAL keep segments, let's say 1000, so what it will do, it will, but we don't have archiving enabled, so it will not help you. I think you have to have WAL archiving on to keep the WAL keep segment. So it will keep those WAL files around until 1000 WAL files around, and in case that long query ran for 15 minutes, the system can catch up. Actually PGX log, it will keep number of WAL files in the PGX log, 1000. So that's where the WAL keep segment is useful.
What is the industry standard? Is it advisable to have the archiving log on, or it should not be done?
Industry standard is like, of course, it's like you should always have a WAL archiving on if you are using a production level of database, yes. Because there are a couple of advantages. One of that is like, for example, like this, right? in case you don't have WAL archiving enabled and you want to your standby goes behind, like what you have to do is you have to scratch your standby database and do the entire process again, like take a backup from the primary and set up a base backup and then do the restore. That's one use case. The another thing is, like if you don't have archive mode on or archive logging on, you cannot do PITR, like point in time recovery. Even though you have streaming, you can have a standby database, but you cannot do, like if you have a backup and you want to roll forward, you cannot do that. The other thing is, like you cannot take a hot standby, a hot backup, sorry, if you don't have archive log on. You can still take a like PG dump, those kind of backups, but not like file system hot backup. So it's always a good idea to keep the archive log on and archiving somewhere. So that's what we do. Like,
So if the standby cannot catch up with the wall file, right? What can you do? You just like bring down, you set up the standby?
so if the standby cannot catch up,
Yeah.
so you have to destroy the standby and do it again. Take a new backup from the primary, send it over, and that is the reason. Like I always have a both streaming. What normally my setup is like do the primary, do the streaming as it is, and have a WAL-E or something that send out a WAL files into the Amazon S3 or somewhere. So it's always there, right? Like I keep those files around in case and remove after like 10 days or something, depending on the retention period of my backup, just in case.
About the 10 days, so are you saying that even with WAL archiving streaming, that the archiving on and the archive command should be saving 10 days worth of data, like with rsync or
So I will give you the use case why. Like for example, you have like last 3 backups. Let's say every 2 days you are taking a backup, and if you want to restore for specific time in last 3 days, for example somebody made a mistake on, like you took a backup last Sunday, every Sunday you are taking a backup, but you want to restore like 2 weeks ago up to the Tuesday. If you have a backup, you have full backup, and if you want to restore until Tuesday, you just restore those WAL files until Tuesday. So you will see like what was the state of my database at that time. If you don't have that WAL files, then you can just restore the another next Sunday backup, right? So you'll be missing that 1 week of window. So it's a good idea to keep with the same retention period that you have backups. So you never know, it's not useful right now, but there are use cases. People make mistakes and you want to go back. Any question? Good? Good. Okay, oh yeah, don't forget about this setting, WAL keep segments. That's where it's all about. Like it's, I think I came up with a magic number at one system, like about 1 terabyte of system. Like I tried all the numbers and suddenly I started using 10,000, like keep WAL keep segments, because every time what was happening is like I had a primary database about terabyte and I couldn't able to set up a standby because it couldn't able to keep up with the WAL files, and I did not have WAL archiving. So they had like, it was automated installation also, they just went with the streaming replication, no WAL archiving. So in that system I couldn't able to set up the standby, because by the time I do the extraction and everything be ready, all the files are gone. So I have to do it again. Like I did 2 times, I bumped it to 5,000, it didn't work, then I set it 10,000, then I tweeted about like 10,000 is my new magic number for WAL keep segments, as long as you have disk space.
So if I have an archive of on, then I don't need to bother about this, right?
You don't have to worry about, yes, if you have WAL archiving on, you can use that WAL files. So you can copy those WAL files from one location to another and use that for recovery.
So what kind of symptoms I see on the standby? Let's say, this parameter is not being correctly. It will fail saying that, oh, I can access this WAL file
you do get like, so what it will do is like, so if you just have a streaming replication and you have WAL keep segments, let's say 100, and you see those kind of messes. So when the streaming replication cannot able to catch up fast enough, it will go, if you have a archive log on or WAL archiving and set up properly, it will go back to the WAL files. It will still throw one error that, okay, I couldn't able to find that file into the PGXlog directory on the primary. You will see that error in the standby database. But if you have a proper setup or WAL archiving setup, then it will start using that WAL archive.
I have a couple of follow-up questions. Maybe I can ask now.
Sure.
So, how, this is only when standby is falling behind, right? And even this is true with 9.4, where you said where master is, aware of the replicas.
Yes, only if you are using it. You can still use in 9.4, you can still use streaming replication only. You don't have to use the replication slot. But that's what we are trying to talk about, like you should be using replication slot with the streaming. So what the replication slot, so streaming will be using this slot for the replication. So now the slot has all the information required, so you will not miss those WAL files.
Okay, so in that case, primary will keep those WAL files.
Yes.
What we did it, and
You don't need this then.
okay, if we are using slot, then we don't need
You don't need this, yeah. You still need, like there are some glitches like the first time, because that we will cover later, but the PG base backup, if you are using PG base backup, you still need this for the first time, because the problem I came across, like if you don't have archiving on and you are just setting a replication streaming, this, and you have a large database system, the first time you still need to keep some WAL files around, because the PG base backup doesn't use replication slot yet, but it will be start using in 9.5. I think somebody committed that feature in 9.5, so you will not need this in 9.5 for sure. So WAL keep segments you can ignore. I think one last thing to worry about. You have another? 1 second.
So the next question I have is, what's my recourse? Let's say, if I don't have set correctly, then my standby is complaining that, it can't get to the WAL file that it needs because primary visitor is only option 9 to fix it is, do a backup again and restore it and both that.
You can do.
Restore point is beyond that WAL file.
If you have archiving on, then you don't have to do that, right? Because there will be archiving location that you will be putting your WAL files. So on the standby, you can have a restore from the archiving too. So that's your recourse.
In case if I don't even have archiving, then
Then you use the magic number I just told you, 10,000. Make sure you have enough space, and that will work out. And if you don't find like 10,000 is too low for you, then you make it 20,000. Disk is cheap, right?
But the question is, you said it 10,000, when you do a physical backup, it will take a long time, right? And then also when
Yeah.
you restore, it will take a long time.
Right. It's, yeah, but there is no other way, right? Like you have to keep those WAL files around, or you set up our WAL archiving, one of that. If you set up WAL archiving, you are keeping it forever until you delete it. But if you are just setting a streaming and you don't have WAL archiving turned on, and like this is archive mode on, archive command, like you can use copy that, like people using different, like copy command is good enough to copy from one location to another. I have used PITR for sending directly onto the standby, and there are, I think rep manager has its own command. I think I have used it for haven't used for rep manager for a long time now. And on the recovery conf file, you have a restore command, right? So you have all the parameters for the streaming as well as this restore command. So in case the standby couldn't able to catch up using the streaming, it will fall back to this restore command. You got that, sir? So you have a streaming, and if you have a recovery command set up, so it will fall back over there. So you don't have to keep all the WAL keep segments over there on the standby. So what you have to be doing is you should. Yeah. No. So archive command is like you will be copying to somewhere, and then you maybe rsync or something to the standby, and those are the thing like most of the tools are providing, like Rep Manager, WAL-E, PITR, this kind of management. It's very complicated to manage all these things. So that's all the tools are providing. And then like archiving option, you can do local or remote copy. You could do SCP, rsync. Some people are doing NFS, like you put an NFS mount point on both systems, so you don't have to copy the files. That's the one way to do it. And make sure you set up a WAL PG archive cleanup command properly, so it will clean up, so it will delete the archive logs after X period of time. If you set up a 10 days, it will, or you can, I don't think so it's time based, I think it's like once it doesn't need it, it will clean it up. So yeah, so normally I do set up from the cron command myself, because retention period is different than this thing. The PG archive cleanup is just cleanup. So on the standby, once it doesn't need it, it will just clean it up. So in the ideal setup, what you should have is like you have primary. If you have standby, you are sending your WAL files to the standby, do the PG archive cleanup to do whatever it has to do, it will clean it up, and you are sending those WAL files to the different another backup, let's say backup server or maybe S3 location or whatever. So keep it over there. So in the future, if you need them, you can bring that back. So that's how I normally do it. Okay, what if you have more standby machines, right? Like then your command will go further, like you rsync standby 1, standby 2. Some people are using like xargs to parallelize those things to send at the same time. So it's getting complicated all the time. So if you are working with more than one system, then managing this is very difficult. And whenever there are some corner cases with this.
I understand the reasoning you gave for the 10-day point-in-time recovery that you get with archive command, but if there were a scenario, a hypothetical scenario, that never needed point-in-time recovery, it just application did not require for production, would you still see a need for archive command if the WAL streaming were working and keeping that in time perfectly?
No.
Okay, because I have some systems
Yeah.
with archive command off, but in these systems they have no need, they would never need PITR.
PITR, then yes, you don't need it. And that was a system I was working like 1 terabyte, they don't need it. So that was the reason they never had archive mode on. So then I have to tweak that WAL keep segments. You have to keep it big, so you don't fall into that trap.
Okay, because earlier you had mentioned there was some kind of, like this was a backup of segments if the streaming had failed. So I thought there might have been some kind of tie-in that I wasn't aware of.
Okay.
Streaming and the archive command.
Yeah, so it's a like fallback. We are good on timing, I think 2:15. Okay, 2:45, right? Okay, replication management tools. So I think I wrote it down over here. PITR, WAL-E, Rep Manager, PG Barman, Sky tools, and a lot of custom script. Like if you search on the replication management tools, there is a wiki page, like you will see a lot of those out there. The problem right now with the thing that everybody is using it right now, it's actually all the replication we have used so far, it's broken, because the number one thing is fsync, right? So if you are using copy, there is no fsync, like it will send over to another location, but there is no fsync capability built in. So in case something happens into the network or anything, it will fail. And I have seen the cases where you might be missing couple of WAL files on the standby database, and the only recourse is like you have to restore, you have to take a backup and set up it again. So because that's the reason, like it doesn't have fsync capability. Once the command was sent, like it could fail, and Postgres will remove that file from this primary, and it's like command will success, but it doesn't have fsync. So with DD there are some GNU core utility that provides the fsync. I think SSH introduced in 2014 this fsync capability. If you are using rsync, you can write a patch or a wrapper to use the fsync utility, but most of the people are not using it. So in theory, like most of the replication, we have asynchronous replication and asynchronous broken replication or something like that. But if you are using NFS, then it's supported, because NFS supports the fsync. So it's written on one system, it's there on the other system. So I think that's the main reason, like replication slot bring onto the table, like it does provide the fsync capability on the standby. So once you send over the file, it's 100% guarantee that this file was written somewhere on the standby. If it is not written, it will not removed from the primary database, and that is the main reason. There are other reasons, but the main reason that you want to use the replication slot right now. If you are using a production system, and if you don't have replication slot set up, like you should be using it. So that's why, like in 9.4 we have a replication slot. So that's where this maximum replication slots feature, there is a new config parameter. I do set it to 8, so it will tell you like how many slot can be created from that primary database server, and this is the primary server config setting. Normally I set it for 8 because normally I would have like maybe 3 or 4 standby. I might use one for PG based backup in the future, and maybe so I'll just keep it 8. It doesn't like hurt the performance if you have 8 or 10.
Can you talk about what slot these are gathered from the other pharmacies, and some sort of abstract concept which keeps track of pickups and things like that?
That's what I think we are going to talk about, like so maximum, and this setting does require a restart. So setting little higher value is good idea. So in the right now we just need 2 slot, but in the future we might need more. And then there are like 2 kind of slots. So in the future that I am not going to talk about, you can able to create a logical replication slot, but right now we are talking about the physical replication slot. So there is a command select star from pg_create physical replication slot, and you can give a name. It could be a standby 1, standby 2, whatever you like, or JME. And so once it's created, then you do like if you do select star from pg_replication slot, there is a new view. It will tell you like what are the replication slot. It's there, the name, slot name, is it a physical or logical, and the last that restart ls in the last column, it will tell you what was the last fsync happened for that WAL files on the standby. So what was the last file was written. So now the primary database server has a state that this WAL files was written. So now it will remove, it will not remove any files like younger than this, but it can remove, overwrite the WAL files if it is older than this, because these files. So if you have a 3 slot, right, you have a 3 standby and one of the standby couldn't able to catch up, it will keep all the WAL files, even though other 2 standby are way ahead, it will keep the standby until it will run out of the disk space on the primary. So that's the another thing you should be care about, like make sure that if you are not using the replication slot, destroy that replication slot, don't keep it running, otherwise it will never ever delete the WAL files. So make sure that you use it or lose it, or maybe destroy it.
What's the best way to monitor that? Is to do some variation of this query and calculate something?
Normally, like you can calculate based on the restart LSN. Like I think the check Postgres might have something new, but I think I have last slide for that, but I don't remember right now. But I think that's the only way, like you have to calculate based on right now how we are monitoring, like applying the WAL files, like what was the last time this WAL files was applied, the same way we have to calculate this, and if it is not used, then we have to destroy it.
So does each database have this table?
So this is the global setting, so it's a cluster level. So and that's another thing, like Postgres physical replication is all or nothing, right? You can replicate everything or you don't replicate. That's the definition of physical replication actually. But in the future there will be a PG create logical replication slot. In that you can define specific table that you want to replicate logically. So that will be in the future, but right now we are talking about all or nothing, like you are replicating entire cluster or you are not replicating at all. And on the recovery.conf file, you just provide like just the slot name, primary slot name, and it will connect to the, so that those replication user will connect this slot, will use this slot for the streaming replication. So you are just creating a logical slot that will keep track. So unless we didn't have any mechanism in Postgres, so that's why we were using a lot of different tools to manage this WAL archiving thing. Now we have that in Postgres, that we don't have to rely on any magic number of WAL keep segments or something like that. We know like what's the state of the standby database and how much it was written on the standby. Then it will keep until keep the state of the WAL files. So there are basic the benefits of the replication, like keep necessary WAL files. Each standby can have a different WAL apply status, right? Like each standby can be different WAL files apply status. For example, I normally have like one WAL files is always applying the WAL, the other file, another standby is like at least 1 hour behind. So in case somebody makes a mistake, I don't have to like do the recovery, I can use that standby, just stop that standby and query that standby database to find out or restore one of the rows or table. It's a tool actually, like you can, I'm not sure, like it's still in the archive, like the archive PG restore, the restore command or not. It has a, I think in restore command I have used a lot the OmniPITR, and that's why I don't have that specific information. But OmniPITR, that's why we wrote that tool actually, to provide that capability. I think restore command should have ability to do that. I don't know though, because I have used OmniPITR and it always had one parameter that I was setting to set up as a 1 hour delay or 4 hour delay. The other way you can do very easily is like don't copy the WAL files right away, like just always keep your WAL sending behind 4 hours. So, it will not apply until it will be there. I have used that methodology, but but if you are using a replication slot, you have to use the different directory that it will write and then copy over to the directory that your standby is using. So, copy all the files older than 1 hour. So, your standby will never catch up those files. And a single access control setup. So, it is like I used to manage a lot of script for the accessing this slot. Now, you can have like you can have in recovery.com file fsync on receiving side. So, now that is the biggest advantage I said earlier, like fsync on the receiving side is very important. Otherwise, fsync on primary is always good, but now we have fsync on the receiving side too. And how many of you have used PG based backup for taking a backup? It's a very good tool to backup, like it's a built-in, you don't have to compile anything, like it comes with the Postgres. You can use that, it's simple parameters, the primary host name, replication is the user, the data directory of the location, and I think -x stream, I think it will use the, I think it will back up with the streaming properly. I don't remember the dot, but there are different types of backup you can take. With the -x is, I think, anybody knows what -x means? Yeah, I think it will stream the X logs, right? I think, yeah. So, it will stream the X logs while taking a backup. There are different other couple of parameters with couple of options instead of -x, but -p, what is -p? Progress meter. -v is verbose, -r is creating a recovery.com file, I think, right? Yeah, so it will key. Normally, when you take a backup, you have to create manually. If you do -r, it will create a recovery.com file automatically. Okay, so far, like we have the backup solutions built in, we have a PG replication slot, but we were still relying on the different tools like Omni PITR or Rep Manager for the archiving, because we definitely need streaming plus archiving. I would call it hybrid because we need both of the best of both worlds. So, anybody has used PG_receive xlog? That's been there since 9.1, like people, but it wasn't useful until 9.4. So, this PG_receive xlog, that's the command line utility that comes with the Postgres binary, like PG control or a PG base backup. What it does is, like on the standby database, you can start a process PG_receive xlog and connect to the archive directory, connect to the slot that we created using a physical standby create replication slot. Let us say the slot is archiving slot. We will connect to the primary and make a connection and receive all the WAL files and put it into the standby database. So, whatever the archive command was doing using the copy and SCP and WAL, all kind of stuff, you do not have to do it. Like this will connect to the standby, you can receive those WAL files on the standby database itself. You run this as a daemon or as a process, monitor it, and you are good. Like you do not have to set up a archiving solution, like and it is a replication slot, it is using a replication slot, right. So, you are 100% sure that the primary will not delete the archiving until I will receive the files. So now what I would do is I don't worry about this SCP using OmniPITR or WAL-E or anything like that. I use this process, run it on the standby, run it on the backup server using 2 different slots, and I'm done with the entire architecture. I have a primary, I have a standby, I have a streaming, I have archiving. So in case something goes bad, I can go back to the archive logs. If streaming falls behind, I can use this directory for the restore. So
In this case, if we are using this one as well as say some process, right? Let's say every 5 minutes we are fetching the data.
it's like continuous, so it's not every 5 minutes. It's like a postmaster, right? It always continuously running, like it will keep connected and it will stream the data.
So in that case, I need to disable those archive from the Postgres.
Yes, you don't use it, like you keep the archive command, it's all like it's always by default disabled, but you need to keep the archive command like archiving on, but you don't have to use archive command. You can use this process to connect, use the replication slot, bring back all the WAL files. So what it will do, it will write all the WAL files into your location. You can run from anywhere, there is no restriction as long as you can connect to the primary database, excuse me. So it's very powerful tool, and the only downside is like you have to monitor is, but you have to monitor it regardless whatever you are using, right? Like you have to monitor it, like it's archiving. The good part is like it will, if some case you are not monitoring and something fails, like the primary will keep the data over there. It will not remove the WAL files until the PG receive X log will not catch up, or it is slow to catch up. In 9.5 they are coming with even better option called Synchronous. So what does that means? So once it's the WAL files is written on primary, synchronously it will be written on that archive location. So even more guarantee that this WAL files is always there. It's very useful for the financial industry to have a synchronous WAL files archiving. Okay, so that's our the total tool set. We haven't used anything else, but all the binaries that is there in Postgres. So we have used PG based backup for taking a backup. We have streaming with replication slot. So replication slot, so streaming will be using replication slot now, and PG receive Xlog for archiving solution. So we have everything inside. So we did not use any of the tool out there in the market, and you have the, I think, very rigid or very strict HA solution out there, like, because now you are sure that your WAL files is always there. You are using replication slot for archiving as well as for the streaming. So you don't have to manage the WAL archives using different tools, and you have PG based backup for a backup solution. So you don't have to use like different tools, like different scripts to take a backup. Does it make sense? Like it's pretty interesting. Like unless I come to know, like I was really excited that okay, now I don't have to rely on the untested tool, right? Like whenever you write a software, there is always a bug. So now, like if everybody is going to start using it into one tool, then if there is a bug, like we will be able to find out very easily. Earlier, like we had different tools that everybody was reporting the problems, but like the effort was going like spread across different tools. Now it will be just one tool or tool suite of tool that you can use.
Still, this is not 100% accurate, right?
Sorry? Automated failover is not there for.
This is not 100% accurate. I have really it's there, but still it's a manual.
Failover is like it's a debatable. Like I don't like automated failover. Like there are use cases for good for automated failover, but no. And like even like some of the tool like WAL-E and other tools, they don't provide automated failover. there are various problems with automated failover. One of that is like network partitioning and other issues. There was like, I think yesterday somebody published automated failover tool. What's the name? Nemo or something? Yeoman or yeah, something like that, yeah. So like there are probably 15 tools out there, but none is 100% yet. So you can use it, like there is a risk using it, and that's the reason people don't use it normally. Because once you fail over, you cannot fail back in 9.4, but in 9.5 there is a new feature coming in that you can, I think, roll forward or like PG forward or something, that you can like do switch over, not fail over, but switch over like Oracle. So yeah, automated failover, like it's not there right now. Even with the tools is broken, and that is the reason like the Postgres community has not adopted, like there is no built-in tool, because like it's problem outside of Postgres, like because you cannot control the network partitioning, like you need some kind of distributed system like a zookeeper or something to keep track of the state. And like I think compose.io has different tool for failover, but that is also not 100%. So I have used like couple of times, but finally I had to go back to the, so normally what I do is I do semi-automated. You still script the failover, but the decision when to do failover should be taken by engineer, because I think you might have remembered the Git have that issue in MySQL maybe 2 years ago. What was happening, like they had automated failover in MySQL, so what was happening, they were failing over, failing back, failing over, failing back. So, and I think they lost some data because of that. So it's your choice, like you can still script. 5 minutes. Yeah, so I think what after this after the break we can have 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever, like 15 minutes is good. Are you guys excited to do it like by yourself, right? You will be doing this by yourself. So by end of this session, like if you have more time, we will be able to, like, I would like to make you a replication DBA for your company. So that's my goal. So hopefully I'll be able to help you. So you will do everything. We will set up a primary, we will set up a streaming with replication, we will do failover if we want to, those kind of stuff after the break. Let's have 15 minutes, 2:39. Yeah, if you haven't downloaded, you can download it, the VM. So there is a terminal. It should be under applications, maybe system tools. Yeah, if you go to applications, system tools, and terminal, double click on terminal. And I'm going to keep 2 of the terminals open, 1 and 2. One with the sudo -s, PGConf is the password, that's the root. So ID is root, and for another sudo -Postgres, and this will be a Postgres user. So PG training user has a sudo access. You can terminal, internet should be copy paste, should be working too. You can take actually in the virtual box, you can take a snapshots if you want to go back to start again. You can take snapshot at any given point of time from the virtual box. So installing a Postgres is really easy. Like I have had a nightmares when I used to install Oracle. Took 2-3 days to install Oracle, but Postgres is like 5 minutes install. So like the first command is sudo, like right now we are not installing because I already gave you the installed Postgres because I thought the internet might be slow. Otherwise you should be able to do by yourself too. It like sudo yum erase Postgres, that will remove all the PostgreSQL, and then you have to set up a repository. Like there is a PGDZ repository from Postgres team that you can use it, and just do sudo yum install Postgres 9.4 server and contrib, and that will give you the Postgres installation. So I have done until the red line for you, but in the at home if you want to do it again, what you can do is run the erase command first, remove all the PostgreSQL installed, try to install it 9.4 version, and then so the first command you will be doing is starting up the Postgres. So I'll be just copy pasting this sudo service Postgres 9.4 initdb. Are you with me? You are starting up the Postgres now? Oh, sorry. It's already installed. Sure. I think the resolution is bad.
If it's possible.
Yeah, it should be, I think. It's good? Okay, so as you can see, like I started up the Postgres, like initialized the Postgres initdb, and the status is okay.
What's the password? Sorry.
PGConf.
For the sudo -.
Yeah, all the yeah. So I mistakenly did PGConf, like I shouldn't be doing, like I thought it's a password, but it's like it was initializing the database. So Postgres is up, like installed, but it's not up and running yet. And I will just keep this chkconfig. The next command is chkconfig command. That is for let the system know that in case of the system restart, it will restart the database itself too. So it will automatically restart it. So I will just keep that sudo. I'm already sudo, like I'm already on root, so I don't have to write the sudo, but chkconfig PostgreSQL 9.4 SQL 9.4 on, and I will start up the database now. Sudo service PostgreSQL 9.4 start. I am running this as a root user. And database is started up. So I have, as I said, I have two windows, one with the root user and another with the Postgres user. I will just connect psql-u Postgres, and I am connected. Select version. So let me know if you haven't been able to install the Postgres or started up the Postgres yet. That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, that works. Started? Postgres is started? Good. (9.4.5) is the latest one right now. /l is the database list, the databases. Slow. Okay, the next slide. As I am connected sudo Postgres, I can create a role PG training with login super user. I am just copy pasting that. Once I am connected into Postgres, that's the next slide. Good. Okay. Cancel. Okay. Okay, I will just do full screen. Okay, so chkconfig is it will let Linux know that whenever the system restart, it will restart that Postgres service. It's in your, if you are on the VM or you are not on the VM.
Oh, that's Red Hat.
It's a CentOS specific, so you don't have to worry about it. You can ignore that. So I'm just creating a role PG training. The next create role PG training super user. Create database. I am creating a database. This is all messed up. Create database PG training. Create role replication. Copy, paste. I am creating a role replication with login replication. I am on the slide number 35, and I will set the password for replication user. So it will ask me to enter the password is let's say replication, and that's my password for replication user. So that's the end of 36, slide number 36. You're with me? It's working so far. So we installed Postgres, we created a database user, set the password for replication user. And then the next step. So we'll find the location of pghba.com file. So the best way to find it out using the PSQL itself. So there is a command show hba_file. We'll find that out. So hba_file. That will give you the location of the config file that we are going to modify it. So hb_file, and then we will modify that file. So copy, and as a root I have another SSH connect, the session open with the root, so I will just do vi and modify the file. Oops, it's not copying. Copy, paste, yep. And at the end of the file I will add this entry, the new entry. What it does tell is like allow this replication role to connect using authentication MD5. Paste on localhost 127.0.0.132 and save that file. So that's the end of slide number 37. So the show command is very useful. You can actually see the data directory, data_directory, to find out the data directory of the config of your database, HBA config file location. Those kind of things is important when you start using new database and you don't know where those files are located. So now I am going to 38. So this these are the new the alter system is the new command, I think introduced in 9.3 probably, that you can modify the configuration file using alter system command, the PostgreSQL.conf file using this command. So what it will do is it will create a new file, PostgreSQL.conf.auto I think, and it will write this new parameter. So whenever the Postgres will load, it will load Postgres.conf file and the Postgres.conf.auto file. So let me go through each. This command we are running on the primary. Right now we have only one database. So the WAL files is hot standby, archive mode on, replication slot 8, archive timeout to 60. It's now how long?
Question. So if it's generating two files, postgres.conf and auto, right? So in the future, let's say I need to change one more parameter. Which file I need to update?
So .auto file is always take a precedent, like whatever in auto will take into effect. So if you have a same parameter defined into two file, it will take effect the .auto file.
So if I just update the auto file, it will automatically, like whatever the parameter I'm changing, it will take effect.
If it is not required, restart, yes. If it
Already are using
hmm?
What if you're already using additional conf files?
Additional conf file, like
You can set another conf file besides the Postgres.
yeah. Then you cannot use this. You shouldn't use this command. Like this use, like I use this command for simplicity and just give a use case that there are new command called alter system in Postgres that like Oracle or maybe MySQL, I don't know, but in Oracle you could able to change that P file, I think, yeah.
So this won't work for 9.3?
It will work on 9.3. I think it introduced in 9.3 probably. If it don't work, then what you should be doing is modify, go to the PostgreSQL.conf file and modify directly into PostgreSQL.conf file. But I am just going to modify right here in PSQL. I just copy pasted that alter system command. So if you want to see like the show data_directory, let me see. let me see what are the files. ls ltr paste. So you can see the new file .conf auto.conf is generated. It
We need to put those alter statements back up so that we can actually type them in,
on
unless everybody else has copies.
most of them has a copies, yeah. Only you?
I
I
don't either, but if you're using Ubuntu, if anyone here is using Ubuntu, there's a whole lot of things different than in the CentOS roadmap, just
Yeah.
FYI.
Actually, I'm just running it on Mac.
Mac. So what you should be doing, I will tell you. Go to run this command show data underscore directory to find out where is your data directory.
I already was able to alter my HBA.conf
Okay, so
in the middle of editing my
okay,
PostgreSQL.conf and
okay. Can you see those? Everybody is at this stage right now. Yeah.
What's the relationship between WAL senders and slots, number of slots?
So WAL senders is what's called. I think that is, I don't remember right now, but you can do the search. I think that's for streaming replication, like how many WAL senders, yeah.
It's like define the process to how many master to the same.
Yeah, how many replication,
How many processes?
how many process actually, yeah,
Sender process.
sender process.
Shouldn't it be determined by number of slots?
Slot is like different because the replication slot will define as a logical level that this many slot you can create, while that those are the processes, like how many processes you can have it. So you need both, and normally I would set it same.
If I have a fewer WAL, if my
If you don't use the replication slot, you still need, if you are using a streaming, you have to use this WAL senders. You are good, ma'am?
I got this okay, but then this one when I try log in, it said authentication failed.
So there is,
But I created.
go down. U training, DPG training. Remove the local host, I think. Same.
Yeah. I tried. But then I did.
Oh, you don't have a,
I did create this. Right here.
you are connected as a PG training right now. What's the ID?
Oh, this one.
ID. This is Postgres, that's why. So exit out, exit. Now try that command, it should work. But you can run as a you used to run as a Postgres and try to connect as a PG training. Okay, and now we'll be restarting the database, sudo service restart, to take these parameters into effect. Not on the root. Oh, it's restarted. Cool. So if you want to see, like, look, so maximum WAL senders. It's 8 now, so maximum. So maximum replication slot. Replication slots. Yep. So those things in effect now. Okay. So the only so we will just create a replication slot That's the slide number 39 or 40. And I will create a replication slot. So it's a standby one. It's created, but it is not being used right now. So I just create a replication slot. It's not being used, but I don't care right now because I am just going to take a backup using the command pg base backup that we talked earlier. So what it will do is like run this as a sudo-su.postgres. ID is Postgres. Yeah, I am running as a Postgres. PG base backup -h is the host name of the primary. That's our primary server is the local host. -u is the replication user that we created. -d is the location of the data directory of the slave database server, and I decided to go with the directory under 9.4. If you go into where lib PGSQL 9.4, it's the primary. I will be creating another directory called slave, and I'll be putting that the base backup over there. Oops. Copy, paste. Access PV -p -v, and it is asking for a password for replication user that I set is as a replication, and it's taking a backup. So as you can see, it took a backup with the verbose mode. I always run pg base backup is the verbose mode, so you will have more details. So if I see this directory, now there are some files in there. And there is a recovery.com file already generated because I gave option -r. You will need that command, that pgh base backup command.
I missed putting the slot in.
Okay, I will go back.
I forget how would I change the password for that? I must have entered it wrong.
Go connect on the Postgres first. Backslash password space replication is the user, right? Enter new password. We set up as a PG. I set up as a PG replication user, so you can use a replication. Yeah. I can email her. Yeah, I can email you the slides. So.
Yeah, that might help. Yeah, because I'm too stuck right now.
Okay, go to the website. This slide should be updated like I.
I'm also happy to sit next to you with that, and if that helps.
Why don't I just
Yeah.
look at yours?
Yeah, that's even better. Yeah. So working PG base backup.
Yep, done.
Cool. So we have a recovery.com file over here. Yeah. So let's go back to the slides where we were. So we have a backup So we will prepare a standby database, like, because we want to run two cluster into same server, so we will change the port. The default port for Postgres is 5432, so we will run slave and the 5433 port. So go to this location, cd the slave data directory, and we will edit this PostgreSQL.conf file, cd var lib PGCQL 94 slave not recovery PostgreSQL.conf file, and we will change the port to 5433. And what else we need to change? And hot standby to on. And right quit the file. And on the recovery, we at the same location we have a recovery.conf file that we will be editing. It has a standby mode on, and primary connection info, we have a user, password, host, port. We don't have SSL mode, so we will be removing that. Like we are not using SSL thingy, so we'll be removing that. We just need this much of information. Just keep up to the port. I think that's all we need, and copy, write, and save the file. And we created a slot. So I will just copy paste this thing. Primary slot is standby 1, and the trigger underscore file is the file that you define by yourself, that if I touch or I create this file, the standby database will fail over. So I just normally put that file name into the PG data itself, so it will be more secure. Nobody can create that file. And the recovery target timeline is equal to latest. That means, as we said, like whenever we fail over, the timeline changes. So whatever the latest timeline of the primary, it will start to restore it. So those are the 3 parameters you should be setting, other than standby and the primary connection info. So I'll be just copy and put it into recovery.conf file.
What happens when I create that file? The standby stops becoming a standby, and
So whenever you touch that file or create that file, it will come out of the recovery mode, the standby, and it will open as a read write.
so at that time it is no longer receiving updates from the primary.
Correct.
Connection is severed.
True. Why I can't able to?
What happens in primary?
Hmm?
What happens in primary?
What happens in primary? Nothing actually, because it's a recovery.conf file on the standby. Right. So if you have primary running without any issue, and if you are failing over, you are just touch this file, the failover file, that is finish.recovery, nothing will happen on the primary. It will just, the standby will stop connecting to the primary and work as a standby, like as a read write mode. So, and that is the reason automated failover is hard.
So if the master, if you bring it up and have a split brain.
Yeah, split brain.
Fix that.
You don't. I don't know. If I have the answer, like I would have written a software and selling it for $1 million.
Virtual IP or CoroSync, and
Yeah, you can use pacemaker or something for the heartbeat, and that will manage it.
What are the repercussions with the recoveries with the slots? So like let's say you bring up the standby to be written to by mistake. Does that damage the primary slots?
So once you fail over, you should, if you are not using the slot, destroy it. That's the first rule of using the slot. So if you are using it, keep it, otherwise destroy it.
Then you could destroy it, create a new slot, and reinitialize the standby.
Right, using a new slot, yeah. And that's why I create a like separate slot for each standby. So in case I have to destroy it, I don't have to worry. Like I have 2 slaves, and one of the slave like has a bad memory or something, it goes out of the rotation. I just destroy standby 2, and I am good. Let me save this file.
Currently, we don't have that PGConf recovery, right?
We don't have. So yeah, you are defining that whenever I have this file, my database will come out of the recovery. So you are just defining the name here in recovery.conf file. But once you create that file in that location, it will just come out of the recovery mode. And that's actually the failover process. And that's what I was talking about, the semi-automated. Like you can have a script that just do that thing, just touch the file. Yeah, just touch, right? In the Linux, is touch the file, and it will create the file. Something is frozen. What's the heck? So we were at. So you are at 41. Slide 41 is done. Have you modified the recovery.conf file? Something is going on here. Stuck again. So the next thing what we'll be doing is in CentOS, like there's a init file that we use to restart or start up, manage the restart of the database. So what we'll be doing is because by default is 9.4 init file has a port 5432. So what we'll be copying that file from etcd initd PostgreSQL 9.4 into new file name -5433 for managing the slave database server on the same server. So just copy that file and modify the parameters written in the slide. The PG data will be 94/slave. The log will be pg startup -5433.log, and the pg update log is like 5433. I just appended 5433 into the new file. It's not, no, it's a Linux init script. It's a shell script actually. if you go to that location, oh, now it's coming back. So let me go back. It's I am just copying this file. Password for this. No, I don't know. I will just use here in the root. So now this file, I will open this file, copy, vi, paste, 5433, it's a init script, it's a shell script, it's a bin sh. What I will be doing is, so I can start up the database using the service command very easily, like I don't have to write like pg control start. So instead of data, I will change it to slave, pg startup, 5433, pg upgrade, and save this file. So after that, I should be able to do this chconfig, like I'm just keeping with the theme, not as a Postgres, as a root. I'm just telling that the new init script should be on when we start up the server, and I will just do sudo service 5433 start. So sudo service PostgreSQL 9.4 5433 start. Oh, it started. So now we have two database cluster, one is running on 5432. So if I do psql -u Postgres -p 5432, so that's a primary database server, and 5433 it's a secondary. So you can check from here, select pg is in recovery, that's true on a slave because we are connected to 5433. That's the command you can use to verify is it a primary or standby. And if you do same thing on 5432, that's false because it's a primary. And that's the pg_state replication, that's the primary database server command that you can see the state of the replication. As you can see that the state is streaming, WAL receiver is and the client address is the standby. We have the same server, but if you have a different server, then the client address is different, and it's in sync, async. The state of the replication is streaming, and you can see the slots, pg start from pg replication slot, status of pg replication slots. It's active, it's being used. The last restart LSN is the last time you can switch xlog, pg switch xlog, and the restart LSN will be different now. So I just switched the WAL file. let's connect to PG training, create a new table, create table PGConf SV. The last time, that's the WAL file location. What was the last time it was synced on the standby? The WAL files were sent. So create table PGConf as ID integer probably, name attendee name text, insert into PGConf SV1 Jammy values, I think. So let's see if it was replicated, Jammy is replicated to slave or not. 33 /c PG training /d select star from PGConf SV. Say yeah, it is replicated. So we have a streaming replication with a replication slot ready, but we don't have archiving yet. So that will be our next step. So before that, I would like to see like everybody is on the same level right now before we go into the archiving. What's the, so go to the log.
Yeah, that's what I'm existed with code 1 and other system event.
There is a syntax error in recovery.com file. So open the recovery.com file. Yeah, at the end there is a quote is missing after. Yep, yep. Restart, I think. Yeah. Yep. Now it should. Okay, so we have a streaming ready for at least 10 people. That's good. It's very easy, right? Once you know.
I have a question. I actually very much like the way that you're using different ports. Traditionally, the way that I emulate it is I have two virtual boxes and I connect them, so one's called master, one's called slave, and they have passwordless SSH. And so I write into the master, like test rep database, and then I select from a slave, and that way I verify it. But I actually like the way you're doing it with one instance, but different ports. So, but I was wondering, in a production environment, you wouldn't necessarily use the ports. You wouldn't
Different.
repeat on the same.
I would use the same port because you'll be failing over.
Yeah. Okay. So
This is just for a demo, yeah.
okay.
Yeah, because I didn't want to deal with the networking between
Yeah,
two.
virtual-
Yeah, virtual networking and then,
Take an hour.
yeah.
I understand. I like this. That's a very creative method.
Cool, thank you. Okay, so we had one slot. So we'll be creating another slot just for the archiving process, and it will be just be doing archiving. So I will just create a slot, slide number 45, and it should be on the primary, so 5432. You don't have to provide the port name if you are connecting to the primary database. And I have created archiver 1 slot. So you can see here the new slot is created, but it's not active, so it doesn't have any information of the LSN or like the last time it was the WAL file was sent.
Do you always have to create the slot in advance, or will it automatically create a slot when it's available when a client connects in?
Right now, I think you have to do it manually, but the new feature is coming for automatical creation, and that is the reason we don't have right now. you cannot use slot using PG based backup, and it is coming in next release. And what it will do is it will create the replication slot if it is not created, and by end of the process it will destroy it. Had a question or I was good with time? 3:51. So we have until 4:30. So I think we are good. Okay, let's do it. So what I will do is I will create a new directory. You can create that directory anywhere. You can do on the backup server. You can have on the NFS, whatever. For simplicity, I will just create a new archive directory over here as a Postgres user. So I don't have to worry about the permission and those kind of issues. So as a Postgres, I just make directory, and I'm ready. Like I will just receive the logs on that directory. So in slide number 45, there is a command pg_receive x log. H is the host name. That's our local host name right now. The port is the 5432. That's the port. That's the primary database port. Use the replication user. You can set different user for archiver, but I just went with the replication one. -s is the slot name. We went with archiver 1. -n, I don't know what -n means, but if somebody has the internet can find it out. -v is verbose. -d is the location of the archive location. I think -n, I don't know. Let's see. So I will run this as a Postgres user. Okay, I have to copy paste properly. Copy. Too many argument. Okay, let me see. I think it has a problem with the.
It looks like it's an index instead of just a dash on your S parameter.
Yeah. Let me just type it out. Copy, paste, -H127, -P5432, -U, I think. Replication -S archiver set 1 -n. What is -n? Anybody can? Oh yeah, new loop on the connection error. Okay. If, okay, it started. So let me switch the X log and see if I can see PSQL -U PG training, select PG switch X log. Nope, I think there's a problem. Yeah. I can't able to see here. Yeah. Okay, good. Copy, paste. SS archive word 1 and /v/d. Copy. Oh, now it's asking for password. So password is replication. Okay, yeah, now it's doing. So now if I switch the X log, it will. So if you go into that directory, the var lib PSQL archive, you will see those files. So you can see these files. So it's archiving now. So
And so that will just run constantly.
continuously, it should be through init script or something.
And if you don't pass the -n value,
It will error out. Yeah. If you don't pass that .n value, it will exit if there is error. Otherwise, it will retry all the time.
Can you go back to that screen? I'm getting the same error.
I think because of the copy paste maybe. Hmm? Oh, in the there's no dash. Archive. Yeah, remove that dash s. Yeah, no, I think remove that. Replication dash and S, capital S. Yeah, enter. Yeah, now it's.
What's the password?
Yeah, replication. We use the replication user.
Like it says
Archiver 1. Did you create the slot?
Oh, no, I didn't.
Yeah, you have to create the slot, this archiver 1 on the primary. So we'll be using that slot for this archiving process.
Oh, okay. So I would even this.
Yeah, this is a different slot, yeah.
It needs its own slot.
You can use the same one, but that defeats the purpose of slot. So we have now the full system up and running. Make sure that you have this in init script. And there's a monitoring script, monitoring query that I wrote is like, you can PG state replication, it will tell you how much the byte lag between the primary and standby. You can run on the primary database server. Show Postgres. So it's 52 bytes, and you can monitor the WAL receiver process. This WAL receiver is on the standby, so you have to connect to the standby and run it. And that's what you monitor. So make sure that you monitor the PG X log, monitor the PG receive X logs process, if the process is running or not. On the PG base backup log file, run as a verbose, so you will have a base backup completed successfully, or normally that's how we monitor the backups, like by every date create the new file, and if it has that clause or not. If it doesn't, then monitor send out the alert. And I think that's all I have, but I think we can fail over, right? Like we have a primary and standby, so failover is really easy. As a Postgres user, I am connected as a Postgres, pwd ls 9.4 slave cat recovery.com file. We have a trigger file that we just need to touch this file. So right now there is no file like this. Copy, paste, so no file. So once I have, and the PSQL-u Postgres-p5433, select PG is in recovery is true. So once we fail over, it will be false. And right now I cannot write like create database test, cannot execute any create command. I can just read select star from /c pg training, select star from PGConf sv. I think the watch command is there, right, in 9.4. It's pretty nice command, the \watch. So it will run the last command as the interval, like every second, or if you say watch 3, can we use the empty query? I think help watch. No argument, but it will watch the select star from PG state activity. If you want to watch the sessions, you can just do watch and it will run it for you every second. It's pretty good. It's like a top, right? Like it's a watch, yeah, true. I use like people use my top and like PG top, those kind of stuff. Okay, so yeah, I think we are here to fail over. We have this file recovery.conf. So when you fail over, this file will be renamed. So if the recovery.conf file is there in your data directory, it's a standby. But when you fail over, it will be renamed to .done or something like that. So we'll see. So let's do touch, copy, paste. So now if you see, there is no file recovery dot, that should be done. Yeah, cat recovery.done file now is there. Now I connect to PSQL-p5433, select PG is in recovery, false, create database test. I can create, so it's a primary database like the, so we failed over to the slave now. No matter like now the old primary has a slot, but it will continue like, so that's the reason like if you are not using the slot, you should destroy it.
So at this point, if you wanted to fill back over, what's the process?
So you have to destroy whatever there in the primary data directory and take a new backup from the new server. That's the actual, and that is the reason like there are various reasons, but that's another reason like the automated failover can be destructive. In case you failed over and you want to go back right there, like if you have a large database, there is no way, like it will take maybe hours to copy the entire thing. And that is the reason you should have at least one primary, two slave. So you always have a one slave in case something happens to the primary, you still have a master slave setup. So 3 server.
Then how do you point the second slave?
You can just reload that config file with the, if you are using DNS like primary, we use IP address. So what you have to do is change the IP address in the primary connection info. into the second secondary to point to the new and restart it, and it will be done. It will, yeah.
The way that we do it is we did custom bash scripts to prevent the possibility of stone slipping. So we killed before we so master fails, slave becomes writable. If we want to make if the master comes up again, we stop with bash scripts, we stop the service, and we will only begin the PostgreSQL service on it once the other one has verified that it is stopped. And that prevents the dual master.
Yeah, if you have access, right? What if you can't able to access it?
Well, you could do it three-way then.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
fact, you need to do it three-way for certain things like air traffic and health-related situations.
Yeah, like in one case is what happened, like we used like virtual IP,
Yeah.
and what happened is like we failed over, we moved over the IP, but the primary just came back up, like,
Yeah.
and it took over that IP from the standby, and
Yeah.
it acted as a primary now. So
That,
because it just crashed and it did not have any information, and just
yeah, there's tools out there, sync's one, and Pacemaker and other things. We ended up just writing our own bash script, so the one that's not supposed to come up will never come up.
right, like you have to go back, like
A second or third one might, but the one that failed, even if it failed for 10 seconds and then it's perfect, will never come up until somebody randomly allows it.
I think you need to set in the BIOS level, because it's a networking, right? Like you can't even write the script.
Yes.
At the networking, whenever it comes back up, like it cannot take over the VIP.
Yes.
So
So those scripts and those tools, they control all the services now, the starting and stopping. They'll make sure there are never two masters, two writable masters can never exist.
okay, I think that's all I have right now. Any question? Was it useful or it was just a waste of time?
Very useful.
Okay, that's good.
I was curious about your backup setup. In a previous life, I was an MSSQL database admin, and we had a verify command in MSSQL that would run to make sure the backup was had integrity and everything. Do you have that built into your backup system with Postgres?
No. But how does MySQL, like SQL Server verify? Like I think it does the checksum, yeah, that you can do in Linux system. That's the only way. I don't think so there is any other way MySQL Server is doing it.
It verifies the integrity of the backup file itself. So it runs through to make sure all the pages are okay and everything in it is
Oh.
what it says it should be. and
Page
it's
inspect.
consistent.
No, but there is a new feature came in 9.5, I think, checksum, that you can run in the production, so it will verify all the data files, but it's little expensive to run it
So it would be on your
primary.
machine that you restore the backups to check them every day, right?
Yeah, like I don't know how SQL Server is doing it, but it's kind of magical to me, because how would you because the things is changing all the time, right? The database, whenever you are taking backup, there is no given point of time like you can define that it's on this state, or even checksum is going to change. For example, the backup takes about an hour or 2 hours for me to take. In 2 hours, a lot of things will change.
But you have the multi-version concurrency, I forget the entire acronym for it, but it's always at a consistent state at some point, right? And you can verify that on the file level of
Mm.
MSSQL
Okay,
that everything inside of there is consistent.
that's good.
So is it basically doing like a checksum of the data from that time that the backup was initiated and then sort of verifying that checksum matches as when you do it restore? Is that?
How low level it is. I know that it's verifying foreign keys and all that kind of stuff.
So by doing this, can we do a point in time recovery? Point in time recovery.
Right now, right? Like, I did get your question.
By using this master and slave setup, once it is down, master is down, we are triggering a file on slave, but still there would be a data loss. Can happen because some developer might not, some DB won't be available for 5 minutes. He has break, he has taken a break maybe. So maybe you have the alerting tool, you get the mail. He just logs in and it just checks in that there is a 5 minutes data loss. Right? So from master and slave, you still have this 5 minutes or like, can we do a point in time recovery at any point of time? Even if like master is down at 10:30,
Uh-huh.
the DBA have started like he checked that yeah master is down. So after 10:45, like 15 minutes, he starts the touch. We do the touch file and like yeah 15 minutes, it's good now.
Okay.
So
What happens to that 10 minutes?
yes, 15 minutes.
Nothing, because the primary was down. You cannot write to slave, so you lose the data. Like you never got that data in any database system. Your application will be down. Like nothing will be written because the primary is down.
Okay, so I'll say it in another way. 10:30, my server was down, but from 10:20, like even like my arcade service is in a different location.
Mm-hmm.
My VALs are like I have number of writes going on.
Okay, but if the system is down, where the writes are going?
Writes are gone. I'm saying it was writing files. It was not totally into the sync.
Okay.
Data writes are going on. Master is busy in moving files to archive server. Archives, it was still not moved. Like what I would say, there may be around 16 or 100 val files in master server, and there would be around 20 val files waiting to sync with the archive server, right? So there is a difference, and the slave is syncing up with the master directly, as you said. So these 16 files, val files or 20 val files, we have a data like that.
Yes. That's why, like in 9.5, the synchronous thing is coming up. So it will synchronous. The archiving will be synchronous on the archiving, like on the archiving side. So right now it's asynchronous. So if it is not written, it's not written.
But it was written, right? It was
Hmm?
written to the master server. That WAL file just never got across.
Now never got across. Yeah.
When you bring up the slave as the new master and it starts taking writes,
Then you lose.
way to replay those WAL files.
No.
Till the checkpoint segment happens.
Yeah, till the checkpoint segment. Yeah, like. So, but you can eliminate that if you are in streaming, because it's always continuous. And before failover, like I would check if you have access to the production. Like if you don't have access, like you are gone, right? Like you have to just trust the system, like how far back behind, like. And that is the reason replication slot is very important, because like with a synchronous thing, like it will be really important, because you will never lose that. If it is not written into slave, then it's not written into primary as well.
So what is the use of then slot? Like will that data be in the slot?
Yeah, so the synchronous slot, what will be happening is like it will not return into primary itself. It will wait for standby to write it out. Yeah. For right now, like we don't, like the primary has the information and it will keep the WAL files around. even right now the synchronous thing, right? Like sometimes you are missing the WAL files even with the rsync and RCP, those kind of stuff. Yeah, SCP, those corner cases will be eliminated for the systems. That's the big, like the fsync, right? Fsync, like you cannot visible, it's not visible impact, but it's very important when you have the real problem, like as you said, right? Like people just assume that it will never happen, but those corner cases happening every day. Okay then, thank you.